Welcome back to the South End Zone. I am Chad. You see Tyler. It is time to get going with the Week 10 preview. Tyler, you guys had a week off.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a week off. Bama has the week off too. It's that kind of time of the year where like people are taking their little breaks to get guys healthy and get a breather, lick their wounds maybe from recent losses. LSU, I'm talking to you, Gary Nussmeyer, Whit Weeks. Where were you, Whit Weeks? Um, Brian Kelly, talking to you. But you guys just got done licking your wounds from what was a physical contest. You won the game, but you came away from it a little bloodied.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Beating Texas like a drum in Austin. It was very fun to watch. How's everybody feeling? What's the health of the team like coming back from the bye?
Health of the team. I think we're all looking pretty solid. I don't think we had nobody of concern injured. I know we're gonna have two guys sitting out for the first half due to targeting. For again
Mm,
in the Texas game, two of our defenders for both BS targeting calls, in my opinion. I don't even know how or why, but I think that it's been a lot of growing pains, like, almost
hmm
unnecessarily, given that we have a senior quarterback this whole season. I think everybody should be good to go. It's just a matter of execution when it comes down to it. I think we're going.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
so you go into the swamp, or not? You're
Yeah,
not going into the swamp.
we're
You're
going to
going into the
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville to the cocktail party.
Yep,
You're 16 and a half point favorites against a Florida team that's been playing a lot better here recently.
yep.
You mentioned the targeting penalties and the guys that are going to miss the first half of that game. Um, it's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage that you start out with in that game, and
Hmm.
it's a big rivalry game. Um, but we were talking before, and you were saying that you kind of feel like if this team plays the way that they played against Texas and comes out with that same energy and that same attention to detail, execution, and like just going out and doing your job, dominating your job, um, minus maybe some Carson Beck interceptions, that
Yeah.
you guys should handle Florida pretty easily. But what do you think would be the thing you got to watch out for that could make that a little more difficult?
Well, I think it's DJ Lagway. I think he when given the opportunity to play well, has played well. I mean, I know he's had to come in there a couple times for Graham Mertz. I don't know who the designated starter is for. I don't know if Mertz got knocked out of last weekend's game. I think
No, I'm
we have
pretty
to be
sure he's out
prepared
for
for
the year.
both. Okay, I wasn't sure. So I was gonna
Yeah.
say, like, prepare for both, prepare for whatever. I think I was gonna say I couldn't remember if I'm thinking of somebody else. I don't remember, but yeah. So I think Lagway is arguably way better than Graham Mertz.
hmm
Has like a higher ceiling than Graham Mertz for sure. Um, he's already threw for 1,000 yards. He's got 5 TDs, 5 picks to a side. But given, I mean, so far I believe they've not won every game he's been in, because I know they put him in too late in the one
hmm
game. But at
Right.
Texas A&M, I think that was a foregone conclusion. No, Miami. That's what he came into
Yeah,
Miami against
Miami.
Miami. In Miami, that was already a foregone conclusion.
hmm
But they look. I mean, they beat the brakes off of Kentucky, and given how we played against Kentucky, if
Yeah.
you talk about that transitive property,
Right.
I don't know. And I mean, they should have, could have, would have. I think,
Should have beaten Tennessee.
should
Yeah.
have beaten Tennessee, and 4-3. You know,
They're doing better
excuse me,
than I thought they were going to
yeah.
be at this point after they started the season the way they did.
Yeah, 4-3 and then 3-2 out of their last five. I mean,
hmm
I think you get they Miami was never going to happen,
Right.
but and I think Texas A&M is kind of showing us who they are. But I think they could be like a 5-2 team right now, maybe
hmm
6-1 if they play Miami again right now. I don't know. Excuse me,
hmm
Texas A&M right now. Um,
Yeah.
but it's not even about the who; it's about the situation. It's This game is always, you want to talk about a rock fight of all rock fights. It doesn't matter who's coming into this game and what sort of shape. It's going to be a dogfight. We've beaten the brakes off of each other. They've smoked us in the 10 Tebow years. I've
hmm
had to watch Jeff Driscoll play good football, which is still stupid.
Hey man,
Felipe,
he made a nice NFL career out of it, so you
yeah,
can't.
Felipe, the Felipe Franks of the world and things like that.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson. I mean, so
Mhm.
I think our most legitimate rivalry game because Georgia Tech is Georgia Tech. But I like that it's always around Halloween. It's always in Jacksonville, and everybody's going to be tuned up and ready to go. Um, I think we need to rely on the run game again. We have to. We have to. We have to. We have to rely on the run game as we did against Texas. And if our defense plays out of their goddamn minds like they did last time, I don't know who's beating us. I'm
Mhm.
being so honest with you. I think Lagway is good and I think was better than Graham Mertz before the season, is better than Graham
Mhm.
Mertz now, and now he's got the time to prove it because Graham Mertz is no longer going to be available.
Yeah, he's by
Um,
the way, it's ACL, so
okay,
his
so
career's
he's
over.
done. Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
which is crazy because they're like Graham Mertz torn ACL, ending his career. I'm like, why does it end his career? It doesn't end anyone else's career. Uh,
Yeah.
Cam Rising is about to play his 8th season. Like, what are we talking about
Shut
here?
up, dog, for real.
Like,
Like
he should
you
be able to come
know,
back next year. Medical red shirt.
oh, yeah,
Anyway,
dude. So I
so
think we just
yeah,
got to
so
make
you
Lagway
guys,
uncomfortable.
yeah. So what do you think is the the danger maybe of any look ahead or maybe a fall off? Yeah, I know 2 weeks to
Kirby
prepare
won't let it.
for this game. Won't let it happen. Yeah.
Kirby won't let it. Like this is Georgia, Florida. This is this is your game. This is
Hmm.
this is and every year we got to show up. They got to show up, and we got to. The stadium's going to be red and black on the one side, nice and down the middle, and then you got the orange and blue on the other side. It's going to be nice and pretty. Split right down the middle, stadium wise.
Hmm.
No, Kirby's. I forget the quote. You know, he's like, all I know is we're going to eat. That's what Kirby
Mm.
said at the end of it against Texas. It's like you can say what you want, but we're
Okay.
going to eat. And I think
Oh
that's
yeah,
exactly what we're
yeah.
going to
I
do.
remember what you're talking. Yeah,
I mean, it's like we're going to eat. I wish I had the whole quote, but we're going to eat.
yeah. That's good shit.
Um, and if you listen, Kirby, listen, I'm not going to lie, man. Kirby's a quote kind of guy. Like if
Hmm.
you hear the recordings of him in the locker room, he is the ultimate, especially with younger guys. Like, listen, don't get too high, don't get too low. We're gonna ride it out. We're gonna play our game. And
Hmm.
it's also like, yeah, we won national championships, but none of y'all did. Very
Yeah.
few of
Right.
y'all did. Like all those guys are playing
Right.
on Sundays. Like, show up. Like
Right.
we gotta fucking tackle and we gotta catch the ball and we gotta
Hmm.
play, solid and sound football if we're gonna, have a chance at, maybe going to Atlanta and then maybe, a national championship. It's all right in front of us. The season is well within our hands. We control our own destiny right now. And it all starts in Jacksonville. And we cannot give them an inch at any point in time. We have to bury them. Bury
Yeah.
them, bury them, bury them.
The logo on the helmet doesn't win the game.
Nope, exactly. Yeah, you play for Georgia. Congratulations. So does everybody else. Like,
Right.
so does everybody else on this team. Congratulations. We all guess what? We all play in the SEC, and guess what? We all are
Mhm.
playing college football. So you got to show up and you got to earn it. And I think our
Right.
defense is going to do that. It's all got to come down to Carson Beck and limiting mistakes and getting out of his own head. I really do. The run game is where it needs to be. The defense, if it can replicate, not even to that extent, like even play half as good as they did last game, I think we're
Mhm.
in Lagway's kitchen and they don't get anything going. Because that was how we defense is what's won us last couple of Georgia Florida games and letting the offense kind of get going. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Can't let Lagway get comfortable. I think this is going to be his first like full on. No, because Mertz was hurt earlier in the year. So this is I think it's like his third start, full
Yeah.
on start. I think because Mertz
Hmm.
had the concussion protocol earlier in the year.
Right.
Um, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Listen, the run game's where it needs to be. The defense is where it needs to be. Keep that going, and let's get Carson Beck comfortable. I think Bobo is going to do his best to get Beck some completions early and just kind of work from there. We got to. We can't have him looking downfield early, or it's going to be ugly, in my opinion.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, so speaking of games that could get ugly, Texas A&M goes into South Carolina, 2.5 point favorites. This is your current SEC leader. If Georgia wants to get into the title game, they might need Texas A&M to lose, um, because Georgia, you still got some work to do. You got Ole Miss coming up later. You've got this game this weekend. So Texas A&M, South Carolina. South Carolina is going to have all that time to. Hopefully, they will prepare for both quarterbacks, unlike LSU. Hopefully, they'll be ready for Marcel Reed, but also ready in case they pull him and put Wegman back in. That they're not just like, what? We didn't know they were going to throw the ball. What the hell? Anyway, so that one's going to be a real interesting one to watch. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one. I will not be surprised at all if South Carolina plays like they did against Alabama and gives Texas A&M all they can handle. I also will not be surprised if Texas A&M with Mike Elko is just different and
Yeah,
it has a way of just going about their business and
right.
maintaining their momentum. So I don't know how to really read this Texas A&M team yet. I'm still going to stay with what I said earlier in the week on our previous show. Texas A&M is still Texas 8-4 until proven otherwise. So I am going to assume that South Carolina is going to give them all they can handle and maybe even take care of business and get this win. So
This is a South
I'm going to go
Carolina
with South
spot.
Carolina.
This
It
is
is.
a this is a South Carolina, like, no matter, put whatever team you want in this situation coming into this game against South Carolina. This is
Mm-hmm.
historically over the last 10 to 15 years. This is South Carolina's bread and butter. Oh, you're
Mm-hmm.
undefeated coming to our stadium at night? That's so crazy, dude. Like, you're undefeated in
That's cute.
conference.
Aw.
That's so sweet. You're leading the SEC with a chance at Atlanta.
Yeah.
Damn, that's so
Remind Texas A&M what happened to Hendon Hooker.
yeah,
Uh,
right. It's like, oh, that's so unfortunate. That'd be a shame if somebody did something about that. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean?
mm-hmm.
Like, this is a South Carolina spot if I've ever seen one.
And this is an Arkansas spot if I've ever seen one
Oh
because
my
Ole
god.
Miss is going to Fayetteville as 7-point favorites after Arkansas just beat the doors off of Mississippi State. And I don't know. Like Ole Miss looked a little vulnerable against a very bad Oklahoma team, and this might be a little setup here where if Trey Harris, especially if he's not able to go, and then you got to rely on those other receivers. I don't know that Arkansas doesn't end Ole Miss's season this weekend.
I think that's highly likely. If they don't do it, we'll do it. That's like, I feel good about that, saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Trey Harris can't, I mean, you can't have one guy try to win you the game.
Right,
Like,
right,
that's your difference maker. And I
right.
think that you have Taylor Green playing good football, and you
Mm-hmm.
have Jaquin Jackson
Quinton
and
Jackson.
Braylon Russell as a backfield. Like, I think this is in Fayetteville, which is like you talk
It's a
about how,
day game. It's a day game, so it's not the same as the environment LSU went into a couple of weeks
but
ago.
honestly, might be better.
But
That's like Arkansas, like, you know what I mean.
mm-hmm.
Those middle of the afternoon games down
Yeah,
in Fayetteville, where Arkansas is going to sneak up and get you. If we're being
yeah,
honest,
they took Alabama to the wire last year. Like
yeah.
Alabama got up like 21-3, and then Arkansas came back and almost beat them.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, who knows? It's I'll be watching that one very intently, and I think Arkansas's got a real good shot to pull it off. Now, this is the craziest line. We talked about the disrespect earlier this week that Vanderbilt got from losing to
Mm,
Texas. The ultimate disrespect is you have already beaten Alabama, you have beaten Virginia Tech, you have taken Missouri to the wire, and you go into, uh, granted, it's a home game, but you go into a game with Texas, a team that was number one in the country a week earlier, and you come within a field goal of beating them, and now you go on the road to face Auburn, and you're 6.5 point dogs against an Auburn team that can't get out of its own way.
right.
I don't, I don't understand this spread. I don't understand what's going on here. Are they thinking Diego Pavia might not play? Like, is he that banged up? Where?
That's the only way this would make sense. I mean, like I said, he had a look like a possible flat tire,
Mm-hmm.
but knowing him, he's gonna play regardless.
He's a
Like, this
gamer, bro. He's such a
dude,
gamer.
he's a dog, and it's like he's gonna will his way into anything. I think if he is playing, I think it's Vanderbilt money line. Thank you very much, is what I would say. I think Vanderbilt wins this game, like straight up. Like I really
Hmm.
do. If Pavia is even somewhat healthy, considering to get a somewhat healthy Diego Pavia almost beat Texas. So
Right.
this is like, come on now. I know it's away from Nashville, but I don't know. We'll see. Vanderbilt
I
could be
mean,
Road Warriors here against Auburn. I know it's Jordan,
they
Jordan
only beat
Hare,
Ball
but
State by 10 on the road a couple of weeks ago, so maybe it is like a home road split sort of thing. But
yeah.
I don't know. That's bizarre to
Show
me.
me.
It's still
We'll
bizarre.
see it. Show me Auburn.
Yeah,
Show me you can beat
right.
Vanderbilt.
Show me you can do. Show me that you're not going to turn the ball over 4 times. Kentucky goes into Knoxville to take on the Volunteers. They're 16.5 point
16 and a
favorites.
half?
Tennessee is, yeah. I mean, Kentucky just got destroyed.
Yeah.
Kentucky's been looking ugly.
I guess
Tennessee
this
looked a little bit
yeah.
better against Alabama. They looked, well, a lot better than they did against Arkansas. And that's what's so crazy. Like, so we could literally have Arkansas knock off Ole Miss. Arkansas beat the hell out of Mississippi State and beat Tennessee, and then LSU beats the hell out of Tennessee. I mean, out of Arkansas, but LSU couldn't take care of business against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M just barely beat that same Mississippi State team. Like it's just that's what this. It's so crazy. This college football season is unlike any I've seen in a long, long time,
Right, that's
maybe
what I'm
ever.
saying. It's so different, dude. It's
Mhm.
so different. It's like the parody is insane. Like it's nothing is a foregone conclusion.
We were talking
All
about it like the third week of the season, and we thought we would like start to get more clarity.
nope, it's
And there's
November. It's
been a
about to be
little bit
November.
more clarity, but there's some other stuff that I feel like I'm more confused than I was in week 3.
Right.
It's
It's
so
about
crazy,
to be November and we're like, what? Like,
right?
you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, dude. And but I mean, to be fair, I guess I had to look at the calendar. I was like, Kentucky minus 16 and a half. I was like, well, it is almost November. If this was
Yeah,
September, Kentucky, I'd be like, oh, watch out, Tennessee. Like, but
I mean, we do have the
basketball,
Halloween vibes coming up this
this
weekend,
is
so like
true.
it's
It is
some
spooky
weird stuff
season.
could happen. Full
It's true, man.
moons and
Hmm.
witches and cobwebs and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State. We talked about this one
Ugh.
earlier in the week that this should be a whiteout at night, but Kirk Franklin. Maybe that's kind of what it is. He's got a little bit too much preacher in him that
Yeah, right.
he's afraid of the matchup and bringing the dog out of his fans. He wants everybody to be reserved and quiet and very anyway.
That's so funny.
James Franklin did not want to schedule this at night because he wanted the whiteout to be a guaranteed win against Washington. So here we go. The Buckeyes come into Happy Valley, an undefeated Penn State team at number 3, a one-loss Ohio State sitting at number 4. And again, like, so bring back what I said earlier. If Boise State had beaten Oregon and then Oregon beat Ohio State, is Ohio State number 4?
Right, right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
Like just admit that you don't know what the hell you're talking about,
Yeah,
or like put these teams in relation to each other where it makes sense. Like if Texas is number 5 and Vanderbilt's number 25 and Texas wins, that should not surprise you. And Vanderbilt
right,
should either stay put or maybe even move up. They should not
right,
be knocked out of the top 25 because they lost to the number 5 team in the country.
right. If Penn
And Boise
State,
State should not be
right,
17th because their only loss is to Oregon when Ohio State's number 4 and their only loss is to Oregon. Doesn't
right.
make any sense.
And if Penn State lost at any point in the season, are they still top 5? Like, if
Right.
Penn State wasn't undefeated right now, are they a top 5 team? Hell no. But they are.
Right. But
Like,
this is because they haven't played anybody though, too.
right. I
Like
mean,
it's
we keep saying that and they keep winning. Like, but is Ohio State anybody? Like we just said, we
yeah,
don't even
no.
know.
Right. If they beat Ohio State, I think it's no, I mean so Ohio State, yeah, that roster that they put together,
Yeah.
although
Should be.
it's
Could
been
be.
not playing very well chemistry wise. They do have
Yeah.
some big injuries on the offensive line,
Right.
and their offensive line was already struggling anyway. I think they're down to like their third guard. Like
Yeah. I think that,
they had a guard slide out the tackle. Now they have
yeah.
another guy replace. Anyway, they're down to now they still should be okay, but um, it's not the same as having your best guys out there.
Nah.
I mean
Uh,
LSU seeing that
yeah.
with like it would have been interesting to see what does that game against A&M look like with Harold Perkins and Jacoby and Guillory out there. So,
I mean,
speaking of
yeah.
Oregon, oh, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say it's like that. I mean, that Ohio State defense is gonna come to town and give
Mm-hmm.
Penn State everything they're worth and more. I think that's gonna be the
Mm-hmm.
toughest thing. Is like, can Penn State overcome a real defense?
Right,
Like,
right.
can because I don't like if you look at their schedule, like they've played obviously some Big Ten competition, but nobody has a defense like Ohio State's defense is pretty good this year, if we're being
Mm-hmm.
honest. Other than
Mm-hmm.
outside of that kid that Oregon just abused up and down the field.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
other
the
than that,
closest thing that Penn State faced to a good game was the game against USC that they almost
right.
lost in the Coliseum.
Exactly. Should have lost. It's the Penn. I mean,
Yeah.
USC just said, "Never mind. Here you go."
Right.
But listen, Penn State. I mean, listen. You get that running game going. You get that dual threat, and then Tyler Warren, that tight end dude,
Bro,
playing all over the field. Dude, like, come on now. That's as dynamic
he's
as
a
dynamic
dog.
gets, dude. Dog.
He is
So
a dog.
listen, Happy Valley is going to be rocking. And
Mm-hmm.
listen, they'll start drinking at 5 a.m. if you ask them to. They'll come from the bar and go right to the tailgate lot so that you need them to. So they'll be
Mm-hmm.
ready for a big noon kickoff, and probably Gus Johnson and whoever else, wants to call this game. This, I mean, looking at the schedule, I mean, we'll talk about it more. This is definitely one of the biggest games of the entire weekend,
Yeah,
and one of the
for
best
sure. And
matchups
this
we've seen
one's
in a
up
while.
there. I think people thought it was going to be a little higher up there. Oregon going on the road to Ann Arbor to take on the Wolverines.
Oh,
14.5 point favorites on the road. Does
make it
Michigan
21.
does Michigan have like a fight to the death kind of game in them where they
Nope.
can like slow this game down and somehow defensively keep Oregon from running away, because Michigan cannot play keep up. The only thing they can possibly do is keep this game in, under 20 for both teams and hope that they get like a turnover, pick six, fumble, scoop and score, something like that. I don't see Michigan having a prayer in this game.
Well, let me tell you what. This Monday, or the seventh year backup quarterback or whatever simultaneous quarterback for Michigan has announced his retirement from college football midseason. The Jack Tuttle, seventh
Wow.
year QB, rightfully so. I mean, what
Yeah.
he had to, because he got his fifth concussion of his career,
Oh
so
man.
he had to
I
announce
hate
his
that for that
retirement.
kid.
I know, dude.
Yeah.
Had to announce his retirement from college
Mm.
football. I mean, listen, man. Comes a time and a place for all of us. So Michigan still will not be able to execute the forward pass, and I
Mm.
think this game should be like a 21-point spread or higher. If I'm being honest with you, I think
Yeah.
Oregon beats the brakes off of Michigan.
I
Like,
think so too.
unless I'm missing something else, I don't
Yeah,
see
and
this
and it's
game
a
being
chance for
close.
Dylan Gabriel to move up into the Heisman Trophy conversation
Exactly,
for
most
real, for real.
definitely.
If he puts up numbers on that defense. One of the guys who did move up into the front runner position for the Heisman, which I don't think is justified, but it is what it is Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Number 5, Miami takes a 3-touchdown spread into Coral Gables to take on the Dukies. The Blue Devils come in, and I don't know. This was interesting because so Duke has, I don't know, they've been kind of up and down, but they've given a few teams a little more than they expected. I don't know, like Miami just really has not been tested yet this year. Like they have some games where it's like it's like, this is what I try to explain to people. It's not that there aren't teams like Arkansas in these other conferences. It's that that's kind of all there is. So like, cool, you beat Arkansas like 5 times, but you didn't have to play Ole Miss. You didn't have to play A&M in College Station. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different when you have to go play those kinds of games. You didn't go play Texas in Austin. You didn't go play Alabama in Tuscaloosa.
Right, right,
You played
exactly,
Louisville and
and almost
Virginia
lost.
Tech and almost lost both of them.
Should have lost. I mean, Virginia Tech.
You lost to Virginia Tech
Yeah,
and they
literally.
bailed your ass out.
Yeah.
And look, shout out to Cam Ward, because that was probably his Heisman Trophy coming out party.
Hmm.
Was they were done. They were down by like 2 touchdowns or maybe 17 points or something like that late in that game, and he willed that team into the position that they were in, where it took Virginia Tech having that late touchdown that got called back for them to even have a chance. But I look, Miami's number 5 in the country now. They haven't played anybody to really justify it. It is what it is. They are where they are. We'll see if the ACC championship game can be enough to do them in. But this is one where if Duke does beat Miami,
Oh my God.
I think we have to have a serious conversation about whether Miami, if they don't win the ACC, deserves to be in the playoff.
Mm,
Because a 2-loss Miami team, if they lose to Duke and if they lose like this game and then the only other game that really is meaningful on their schedule, because it's not even on their schedule, it would only be if they get to the championship game.
right.
They don't deserve to be in it. Like, you don't get to go have one quality win against Louisville where like they really bailed you out because Cam Ward got the ball knocked out of his hands, scoop and score, touchdown, tie game, and then they were like, nah, incomplete.
Yeah.
So anyway, another team. So this is another one of those undefeated teams that just like isn't in the top 10. But we have a bunch of one-loss teams in the top 10. So Texas Tech, Iowa State. Iowa State, 13 and a half point favorites at home. And Texas Tech is actually a lot better than their record indicates. They barely lost to TCU this weekend. I think they missed a field goal late. And it was they ran a really crazy like throw the ball over the holder's
Hmm.
head backwards to the kicker for him to
Yeah.
run it in for a touchdown on one of them. Nice little okey doke. But yeah, Iowa State right there in the thick of the Big 12 race. So you have a handful of teams in that Big 12 race that could actually give it a run for its money. And there's a few of these conferences where you could have like multiple undefeated teams and they don't even face each other until the conference championship. And the sun is starting to move on you. Oh shoot, that's funny.
I'm
So
trying.
Indiana, another undefeated team that's not in the top 10, goes to Michigan State to East Lansing to take on the Spartans, 7.5 point favorites. And I don't know. Part of me wants to say like there's a chance for Michigan State here, but I think Indiana keeps it rolling. They've been too good. It also makes a big difference if that Rourke kid gets to come back and play quarterback. He like
Hmm.
busted up his thumb so bad that he's got screws in it, but they're saying he's
Oh,
supposed to be able
Jesus.
to play this week. So I don't know. But the other kid that came in and played last week actually played pretty well to help them stay undefeated. So
Yeah, we'll have
we
to see.
shall
I
see.
mean, we'll see. I mean, Indiana could be in contention for the Big Ten when all is said and done.
That's right.
We
Yeah.
have we have yet to be shown otherwise at this point in time. Like they keep,
Bro,
proving it to us. Like
if Indiana wins the Big Ten and Texas A&M wins the SEC, I quit.
that's gross. That's so gross.
That's
That's so
disgusting.
gross. And I want LSU to go to Atlanta. I want Georgia LSU to Atlanta so bad, but the
Me
road is going to be
too.
so tough. It's going to be so
Oh
tough.
God, why couldn't we just finish the job? If we just finished the job Saturday night, it was just a matter of time. It was just like, when, not if.
Yeah,
But
right.
now there's a whole lot of work to do to get there. You guys don't have as much work to do as we do, but you got to beat Ole Miss. Still got to take care of that. So Louisville takes on Clemson. Number 11 Clemson, 10.5 point favorites. A one-loss team that is ranked higher than any. Wait, how is Clemson and Indiana both? I mean, Clemson and Iowa State both number 11. I must have messed up. My apologies, folks. They cannot both be number 11. So I will figure out what mistake I made. But obviously they're not both number 11 in the country. But Louisville gave Miami a run for their money a week ago. What do you think here? You think Louisville's got a shot going into the other Death Valley to take on Clemson?
I think it's highly possible. I mean, now since we played Clemson, they want to score like 50 points a game. I don't know what we did to Cade
That's good
Klubnik.
for y'all. That's
It
good
is
for
good
y'all.
for us. I don't know what we did to Cade Klubnik to make him decide to start playing football, but he is and playing fairly well, mind you.
Hmm.
So Clemson is number 11, by the way.
They actually
And
are both a number. They're
oh
tied for
no, they are
11th.
both tied for 11. So they're
Wow. I'm not stupid, guys. You see?
AP voters want to debate on the 11th seed, and I guess that's where that is.
Right.
It's in Death Valley at night. If this was at Louisville, I think this would have more juice um, for an upset. However, considering I don't know, this is going to be our barometer for Clemson
Hmm.
versus Miami before they get to play each other. Um, but I mean, Louisville looked, I mean, very good in that Miami game the whole way through. If we're being honest, like they gave Miami
Yeah.
everything they could handle and more. I think it's entirely possible. I know it's a 10.5 point. I mean, listen, it's either going to be like 45-3 Clemson,
Right.
or we're talking like 35-32 with a minute left and Louisville might have the ball.
Hmm.
That's where I
Somebody
see
trying to
this.
kick a field goal. Yeah.
That's where I see this. Like we're talking, it's either a field goal wins it or Clemson just doesn't even let it be close. That's where I see this
Hmm.
right now. Nowhere in between for this game.
Right. So another one of those undefeated teams that's not in the top 25 is Pittsburgh.
How are
They're
they
7-0.
18?
So,
Did they
or not in the top
drop?
25. They're in the top 25. They're not in the top 10. Is what I meant.
Did they
My
drop
apologies.
as a ranked team?
Yeah. They went. What do I have them as? Yeah, 18. They're 18th right now.
Oh well,
So
okay.
so right now, undefeated teams outside the top 10: Iowa State, Indiana, Pitt, Army, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Um, and then you have Georgia with a loss, Ohio State with a loss, Texas with a loss, Tennessee with a loss, Notre Dame with a loss inside the top 10. And then Alabama with 2 losses is at number 14, ahead of both Pitt and Army, who are undefeated. And look, I don't necessarily disagree. Because again, Army hasn't played anybody. Pitt has played a little bit tougher schedule, but it's not anything crazy. So I get it. I totally get it. But this is an interesting one because SMU only has 1 loss, and this is one of those
Mhm.
ones where if Pitt does win this game, now all of a sudden you have like this chance for these multiple undefeated teams out of that conference competing for the conference championship.
Yeah.
So
I mean, listen, Pitt could be the. I mean, who knows if Pitt's still undefeated at the end of the season? Who do you put in? I guess it comes down to like overall record of conference. I guess
mhm.
if all things hold, I guess Pitt would get over Clemson because Clemson has 1 loss overall, right? Like Pitt's
I,
undefeated through and
yeah,
through.
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but yeah. So like you could have and the undefeated teams in conference that I don't remember, but I think there's a chance that because of the way the schedules are, that there could be 3 undefeated teams from the ACC in the
Yeah.
conference,
Yes, that's what I
and
mean.
then
Like
one
there's
of the
4 right
undefeated
now.
teams will not make the conference championship.
Which then do you keep them out of the playoff entirely? Like,
Yeah, I
do
don't
you just say
know.
your
Like that.
schedule wasn't like we
Yeah,
could if you have 3
I don't
teams finish at like if well, it wouldn't be 3. You
know.
could have
Or do they sneak in over the team that loses the conference championship game?
right, like so like let's say that it's Miami and Clemson for the ACC championship for whatever reason, and Pitt
Mhm.
still goes undefeated and finishes out the season undefeated, then like where does Pitt go after the ACC championship? Like they're still
Right,
undefeated. Does their season not mean
right,
anything all of a sudden? So that could be
yeah.
very interesting to watch
Right, right.
unfold.
Well, I mean, that would be a thing where the regular season might not mean anything. Who knows? But otherwise, I think it does. And we will continue that debate forever
Mhm.
until I guess 5 years from now, when we will reevaluate and say, like, look, see all these really epic games that you wouldn't have been able to. They wouldn't have mattered as much. They wouldn't have had that national spotlight on them because what we're going to see is one of these regular season games in November that is between two loss teams who wouldn't have even been in the conversation in years past. One of those years, I'm predicting you're going to have two loss teams like LSU and Alabama this year going head to head. The winner of that game is going to sneak into the playoff without even
Mhm.
playing in the conference championship, and then they're going to make a run and win a national championship
It's
because they made it in.
a holy oh, absolutely. That could I could absolutely see that. That's like your that's like your Giants winning the Super Bowl type of scenario. You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's the same exact thing. It's I could absolutely see that.
Like,
It's
look, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, from what I've seen from Vanderbilt, I think Vanderbilt's actually legit. And while yes, South Carolina gave Alabama a run for their money, I think South Carolina is a really high quality team, and I understand that, you know, that's a tough game. Granted, it was at home in Tuscaloosa. Should have taken care of business a little bit better. It's not like going into Williams-Brice and having to contend with their freaking, what's that stupid song they play? The
Sandstorm.
huh?
Sandstorm. Sandstorm.
Sandstorm. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Yeah, not having to contend with all that BS and those people going crazy and Shane Beamer and everything. And then you look at their loss to Tennessee, and if Tennessee is what we think they are, and they're pretty good, then and they've got all that talent, they've got those guys on defense, and Dylan Sampson running the ball like he did. Um, Now, is Alabama the dominant juggernaut that they were before? No, we've already established that. Like, it's different now. But that doesn't mean that this Alabama team doesn't have enough talent and can't possibly put it together. Where if they beat us, if they knock LSU off, they could end up in probably not the title game because they're going to have two losses in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to be Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, or Texas A&M in the championship game. So then Alabama doesn't have to play in that game.
Right.
So now they've got two losses. They're going to get in as like the eighth seed, ninth seed, something like that. If they get an eighth seed, now they get a home game in Tuscaloosa,
Yeah.
and then they go
Gross.
play the number one. And let's say they
Mm-hmm.
get to play Oregon
Yep.
in whatever bowl game environment that is. They could beat Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's it. I'm talking about this. This shit could happen this year,
Right.
where
Absolutely.
two lost teams who would have previously been already eliminated from playoff
By a
contention
mile.
are going to play against each other, and the winner of that game could very possibly win the national championship.
Exactly like because of the parity, it's entirely possible. Like these, like
Mm-hmm.
your two loss team that's kind of hanging around the top 12 is not a bad team.
Nope.
Realistically, like it's not an overall bad team. Like they have dudes
Mm-hmm.
and they can play some
Mm-hmm.
football. Like they can
Mm-hmm.
play well and they can beat teams that are how you want to say how the AP wants to say they're better than you.
Right.
But are they
Right.
actually like we don't, maybe not. Like we'll have to
Mm-hmm.
see, but it's entirely possible. I think that's what this 12-team playoff allows for, which
Yep.
is great.
Absolutely.
Utter chaos.
And the other thing too is what I think I hope everybody should get this appreciation for what a 12-team playoff does is what they've done in the past is because it was either two teams or it was four teams is they would try to do this weird dance of like who deserves it more and who's going to make for a better whatever thing. And so like the one year where it was like Notre Dame against Alabama in the
Mm-hmm.
championship game, there are probably four other teams that would have given Alabama a way better game than Notre Dame gave them.
They should have rematched our game.
No joke.
Like our SEC championship could have been
But the thing is,
daddy.
I understand not allowing that.
Oh, for sure,
Like I
absolutely. How
don't
could you
think
not?
Alabama should have gotten a second crack at us in 2011.
Right,
You
exactly.
lost at home, go away.
Right, exactly.
You don't belong here. This is the place where conference champions only are allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, what's the point of playing a conference championship game?
Right.
Like, why not just not have a conference championship? Just pick the best two teams, regardless of where they finish in their conference standings.
Right.
So what the 12-team playoff does is now it makes it to where like last year's Georgia team is actually in the playoff instead of not being in the playoff.
Don't even get me started.
And it doesn't mean that TCU, who beat Michigan a couple of years ago, and then got blown out by Georgia, it doesn't mean that they didn't belong. But what it means is that any of the other teams, like the next 5 or 6, 7 teams who possibly could have performed better in the national championship game than TCU did, now they're in there.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before you've eliminated those teams and done this like beauty contest kind of selection process where it's a combination of who deserves it more, who the better teams are, who will give us higher ratings, all this stuff. Well, now you get a 12-team playoff. You can have your one or two little beauty pageant people in there. And yeah, to like what Jeremiah had said, one or two of those first round matchups or maybe second round matchups might be a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the teams that are in there, you're going to have 8 to 10 legit contenders for a national championship every year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're going to have 2, 3, 4 that have a better chance. But look at it this way: a couple of years ago in the basketball tournament, it was UConn against San Diego State for the
Yeah.
national championship, a 5 seed,
Yep.
and San Diego State was like good, and they were there. It was like it was a game. And then a few years before, you routinely have this thing where, like a few years before that, you had a 3 seed. Well, in this 12-team playoff, what is a 3 seed? They're like the 12
Mm-hmm.
in this current format. So you're going to start having more and more of that where yes, the top 3 or 4 teams are going to be your UConn, Kansas, you know what I mean? That kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff in the basketball tournament. But what about that Syracuse team that was a number 6 seed that had Carmelo Anthony that like snuck their way in and then made a run and then won the whole thing as a 6 seed?
Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of stuff you are opening the doors for now, to where maybe a Texas A&M, or let's pull up the standings here, because this is what I'm talking about, and not looking at um the play. Oh, this is the ACC standings. Hang on, that's not what I meant to do. Coaches polls. So let's just look at the polls here, and I'm not going to do it like based on who the top 12 are. But what I'm going to say is, okay, so when you start getting down into this range, what we're talking about is the BYU, the Iowa State, Clemson, maybe those teams are the teams that you're like, yeah, they're probably going to get blown out in the first round.
Yep.
Or there's a decent likelihood Indiana, but like Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, uh, Kansas State, Boise State. Like these are the teams that are just outside that range. And then look at the depth right here: Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, Miami, Texas, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Alabama. But like, you really gonna tell me that you don't have a legit 8, 9 teams that could win the whole thing?
Right. No, I think you absolutely do, especially this year. Especially
It's
this year.
crazy.
This year
It's
more
gonna
than
be.
others.
I hope we're in it. I really hope we make it in it. But regardless of whether we make it in or not, it's going to be an insane tournament to watch. The first time we'll ever have an actual college football tournament,
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's gonna be
and I
great.
can't wait. I can't
Oh, it's
wait.
gonna be awesome. It's exactly what we need for college football. It makes the season so much better. It's gonna be awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I cannot wait.
Everything is awesome.
Yeah, dude,
Everything is awesome.
everything is
Yes.
awesome.
We appreciate everybody for coming through. Y'all are awesome. And don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe, because this show is awesome, and you want to make sure all your friends join you for the party when you're watching it, so you can argue over how good or bad our takes are, because that's what it's all about. And we look forward to you joining us again next week when we recap week 10. Go Tigers, go Dogs. I'm Chad. He's Tyler. The South End Zone is out of here. Peace, y'all.